Sustainability is so important for us. It's critical for us as a business, and we're a growth business. And so how do we create a growing business, but at the same time look after our carbon and look after our footprint that we have? It's a bold sustainability plan that we have. It's around delivering for today, creating a low carbon, zero waste business, but at the same time then looking at inspiring for tomorrow around innovation and things that we do. And it's really around how do we grow our business while using less, which I think is incredibly powerful for this group, and really to try and create an atmosphere for the day to really talk about my personal leadership, my personal goals within this, but at the same time working for an organization with a big brand name behind it about what we're trying to do. And I think it's around personal leadership and around collaboration, which really fit in nicely. That's why we're delighted to be a part of today. And so I think those will be two themes that I'll try and draw out around leadership and collaboration. So Coca-Cola Enterprises, that's not the Coca-Cola company. You know, we are what's called a bottler. We have the franchise rights within 6 Western European countries, UK, France, Belgium, Holland, Norway and Sweden. Around $8.5 billion business, 13,000 employees across those 6 countries. Coca-Cola is responsible for the brand, where very much the manufacturing, distribution, the bottling, the franchise arrangement is a good way of looking at that. We have around 17 manufacturing sites around that, and we produce about 11 billion bottles of cans per year, would you believe? So that's big. But who am I? So I'm Stephen Morehouse. I run the supply chain for Coca-Cola Enterprises. So that's end-to-end supply chain responsibility with about 6,000 of those 13,000 people under a fully functionalized supply chain, all the way from procurement through quality, through manufacturing. We produce about 95% of our products in-house, all the way through to distribution. And actually, not only am I responsible for supply chain, but also I chair the Environment Committee. So this is an interesting point I'd like to get across, is that we need in our organization the subject matter experts of sustainability. But I think it's so critical that the leadership really are embedded within and buy into that. So I take that responsibility very seriously as head of supply chain, that sustainability is fully embedded within my responsibility. And also I sit on the management team of this organization. So yes, it's about supply chain, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a lot more detail. But really it's about us as an organization, and how do you really drive that down your organization. Interesting anecdote on personal, we take graduates. I don't know if an organization is out here, you take graduates every year. We take 6 graduates. I was a graduate entry many, many years ago. And they always say, hey, Steve, when you come along and meet the supply chain 6 graduates that are coming in this year, and we get them together in London or Brussels or Paris or wherever. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do that. And I was like, yeah, I know these guys. I understand all that. And interestingly, they were interviewing me about what our sustainability credentials were. So they were actually turning the tables. You know, I had quite an old-fashioned view of that possibly, and they were sort of saying, hey, Stephen, what are we doing within our supply chain? What are we doing about our sustainability? I want to join an organization. Why should I come work for you? Why should I come work in your organization? What are we doing together? And it's very engaging for that group of people as well. And very engaging. We find that we do an engagement survey each and every year, and it's very engaging, and one of the key drivers of engagement is our sustainability. So how do you match that leadership? And it's not just about top down. Yes, you need the leadership at the top levels, but how do you activate that all the way through and down your organization? So, you know, part of the challenge that we have, you know, with a sustainability vision, that one of our commitments is that, if you can imagine a bottle of Coke, that we'll reduce the carbon footprint on that bottle of Coke in your hand by 1/3 by 2020. So we're very much out there in terms of a bold sustainability commitment. And I think, again, personal perspective, as a supply chain lead, I'm not a control freak possibly, but I like to know we've got plans to get there. I think in this area, it's okay to be nervous. It's okay not to have all the answers. And that can make you a little uncomfortable as a leader, but I think that's okay. And that's been a bit of my personal discovery, that in actual fact, you've got to really put your statement out there, put yourself out there as a leader, as an organization, and have plans and have approaches to get there, but it's okay to be a little uncomfortable. So I know that you've all written your challenges on your card. I hope they're bold, and I hope they're bold enough in order for you to challenge yourself to say, well, hang on a minute, am I pushing myself, am I pushing my organization in order to make that happen? And that's probably some observations that I felt that I've had. Also, I think, believe that growth as an organization and CRS or sustainability, they're not in conflict. You know, often I get that question about, you know, how can you do one without the other? I really don't see that they are in conflict. You know, we're in our, it's not about us today, you know, we're in our 6th consecutive year of growth in Western Europe. You know, we're very fortunate in that sense. And I give you, you know, 2010 to 11, we grew our volume, you know, the number of cases that we would sell 3.5%, but we reduced our carbon emissions by 8.5%. So yes, you can grow at the same time as reduce. And I often get that question about how you do that. And you've got to kind of decouple those in some respects. If you are a growing organization, great. But that 2007 base, which is the baseline that we measure ourselves against, what can you do? And it's talking about to actually drive that agenda going forward. And I think that's very critical. And we live in that growing world of uncertainty, don't we? Certainly at Coca-Cola, for us, you know, the commodities that we need and use in terms of water, aluminium, PET, petroleum-based, we could have a good discussion about that. It really means that we've got to treat, and I take that very seriously, we've got to treat the resources that we use and need as scarce resources. What are we doing? You know, what are we doing in terms of our responsibility to the environment, to the sustainability? Because it really is about reducing. It's right for the environment, but it's right for us. It makes good financial business sense as well, more often than not. And I think those are not sort of mutually exclusive. And there are high expectations of us. There's high expectations of ourselves, everybody in this room, of society. And we all face that together. The good thing is, and I like that chart about we're all in this together, we are absolutely in this together, because for me this collaboration piece is so important. And I'll come on to that bit now, that I have an expression in our organization, you know, yes, I'm responsible for supply chain at Coke, wow, you know, big job, everything. But I talk about the 4 walls, you know, the 4 walls of what Coke does. But then what's important now is that we're able to measure and manage the value chain. We've got to go upstream to our supply base. We've got to go downstream through our customers to our consumers, and really being able to measure our carbon footprint across the way and say, what is the impact of our total value chain? And that's the commitment that we've made. And you know, we've certified 3 of our facilities to the ISO 50001. Our Wakefield facility here in the UK was the first in the world to have that accreditation. We've got 9 of those facilities send 0 waste to landfill. We're committed to try and make all 17 take 0 waste to landfill. We have a measure within the Coke system called water usage ratio. So we need about 1.4 litres of water to produce 1 litre of Coke. And that is a reduction of 13% since 2007. So how do you actually take less than you actually need? We also, you've got to put capital behind this. You know, we put over $20 million into our facilities on carbon or sustainability projects. And we did isolate that. There's a question I often get. We isolated that money and had a separate governance and stewardship to actually put that money into our organization, looking through that CRS lens, sustainability lens. What's nice now is that the CRS component is such an embedded part of how we look at our investments, that every investment or capital request that we put forward now has to have what is the sustainability, the CRS impact of that investment. And so therefore we actually put that onto the table, as well as the financial returns, as well as the benefits that we would drive elsewhere. We're also first soft drinks company to receive the Carbon Trust Standard Award, so we're delighted about that. So these are all proof points in a way, but it's about credibility for me. It's about credibility about what we are doing within those 4 walls against waste, water, carbon reductions. Because then what I can do and what we need to do is then push outside. So every year, I'm sure a number of you have this same setup. You know, we pull our suppliers together. So 2 years ago, we set up, you know, typical supplier, traditional supplier events over the years may have taken on different formats, but we actually said, right, we want to give our supply base a carbon challenge. So what we said was we actually put 129 of our top suppliers, where we'd spend several $1 billion with most of these guys, and we said, look, we actually want to understand what your impact is on the carbon, because if we are in this together, outside my 4 walls, I need the supply base, because it's ingredients and packaging, all the way through right into our facilities. And so therefore we set that carbon challenge, and what we're able to do now is say we want to be able to measure your carbon, link it in with ours, and really how can we work and collaborate together to make that a better place for all of us. So stop looking at this in silos, but start looking at this across the entire value chain. We've been working with a number of our suppliers, I think maybe Ecoplastics in the room, where now we actually put a joint venture into recycling here in Great Britain, up in Lincolnshire, into a facility to be able to say, hey, can we work with that supply base to make sure the closed loop of our recycling and our PET is there. So I don't know if anyone was at the Olympics, but we made a commitment about any bottle that you drank at the Olympic Games would be recycled and turned back into a new PET bottle within 6 weeks. Our ability then to close the loop, to be able to put the product into the market, send it up to the joint venture up in Lincolnshire, and then actually be ready for the Paralympics. That's how we can collaborate and make that a stronger place. Also with our suppliers, I'm sure a number of you have supplier relationship management, SRM scorecards. Traditionally, you would measure your suppliers' cost, quality, service. We now have a fourth element on sustainability. So 25% of our scorecard is absolutely against sustainability. And so therefore of the 4 measures, and we have annual awards. This event now has got some traction with it with our supply base, where we try and say, okay, how can we work on this together? Supplier of the Year is the highest ranking scorecard across the 4 elements. We actually have a sustainability or a CRS Supplier of the Year and a most improved supplier using that scorecard. Again, so proof points to buying people in to collaborate to move that forward. And then also, I know that Andrew's coming up in a minute, working with people like Andrew and his organisation at Tesco, a big customer of ours, a couple of examples, and I saw it, actually I was inspired when I came in because I saw at the desk, there was the Eddie Stobart example. Stobart's a common haulier between Tesco and ourselves, I'm sure maybe for you as well. We now run a train from Glasgow, Cumbernauld down to Crick in Northampton overnight. Stobart's run it, Tesco's and Coke, we put our product on there because we've got a manufacturing facility up there. Crick's a big depot for Tesco, and so we now run that overnight. The 3 of us came together because we've got common arrangements. Common sense, simple things, and one that I really like. We're committed with, delivery notes. Who's still doing delivery notes? FMCG, I'm afraid we're still doing a lot of delivery notes. Other industries have got rid of delivery notes a long time ago. We're working with Tesco's at the moment to say, actually, let's talk about advanced shipping notices, electronic e-pod, electronic proof of delivery. If we can do this together, we save, 38 tons of paper per annum, just between the 2 of us. So collaboration can take in many forms. It can be a very simple, and it's all across the organisation. Yes, you need to be thinking big. Yes, you need to be thinking about what is that future? But also what I'd encourage you to think about is some of those examples that are in your organisation that say, actually walk up to that and be able to say, there are opportunities that are out there. And I think for us to succeed, and I say us being as an industry, as FMCG, that's a bit about collaboration. You've got to be able to reach out to people and be able to say, we don't have all the answers. But by putting people in the same room and in the same environment, I firmly believe that you can actually start unlocking some of those. And so therefore, what I encourage you to do today is make sure that you take full advantage of that, because it really is a very powerful way to move that. So thank you very much.